Hello LinkedIn, hello YouTube, hello Facebook. In this, I would say, random live video, random multi-stream, I would like to maybe tell you more about what I observed when we are doing this talent sourcing here at GoodCall, building this sourcing house. And of course, there was 2020, pretty rough year. And there are some changes, which I would say I was already discovering before the COVID season. But as you know, in many other industries, COVID kind of fastened many other things. And of course, for me as a former software engineer, I would almost say that, of course, sometimes it was for the good thing, not for the bad thing, even if for the business, it was pretty tough. I can tell you more if you don't know what exactly we are doing. GoodCall, it's actually a recruitment firm, recruitment agency. We do recruitment outsourcing as well, primarily based on a sourcing model. Since the day one, we started something like 6 years ago. And since the day one, we were based on sourcing. So our recruiters actually are not doing sourcing. That's the work for our sourcers. So that was actually I would say, the overall business model we started with. And of course, as time flies, we need to still improve it. Of course, our backbone in our business is DataCruit. It's recruitment software because we knew since the day one that IT will be a crucial part of this people business. That was, I would say, inevitable. We knew it since the day one. That's why we started actually since the day one building our own ATS, our own applicant tracking system for our needs. The only thing is that after maybe 1 year of functioning, we were actually we were going with this software to the market, and we are actually selling that to a general public, from agencies to in-house recruitment, from like smaller companies with 1 or 2 licenses up to companies like, for example, Deloitte with enterprise licenses. And there is Recruitment Academy, which is of course part of this synergic business, where we kind of put this information and these insights, and I would say almost education on the business, because the market sometimes need to be educated about the new things which are happening there, and based on that we are pushing this to the market. So even if 2020 was a rough year, we can tell you that, for example, in 2019 we placed over 1,200 job openings, 1,200 mid and higher positions, and imagine in 2020 our open vacancies kind of plummet to something like 30% of the overall positions. Yeah, so it was pretty tough. Still, GoodCall kind of managed to be the 415th fastest growing company in Europe based on Financial Times. And actually at the end of 2020, DataCruit managed to be on the list of the fastest growing startups, or actually tech startups in the Czech Republic for the Fast 50 by Deloitte. If you don't know what exactly I'm doing, I was actually a software engineer since the beginning. That's kind of like my nature, and I'm trying to bring this, I would say, analytical, technological approach into these rigid industries, like, of course, recruitment was, and maybe sometimes still is, or let's say we can call it HR, like overall HR. And I try and I like changing these rigid industries with this analytical and technological approach, which actually that's what we are doing right here. You can still meet me at some trainings, online trainings and so on, about talent sourcing. Of course, that's our daily bread here. So that's what we are working on every day and trying to be ahead of the market every day. Recruitment automation in general. Of course, LinkedIn is kind of, I would say, denominator for all of these activities. You can see that there is social selling and personal branding. It's kind of a new thing. Companies are asking about this. And maybe one of those trends might be slightly about this in connection with recruitment. And you will actually see what I mean by that. We actually started because, of course, COVID and so on. So we were prepared for that. But the thing is that, especially here in Central Europe, people are kind of used to going to face-to-face trainings. They rather pay more, go to face-to-face training, spend their time. And that's why I would say like online trainings was maybe 20-25% of the business before COVID. Now it's totally vice versa. The vast majority of the business is online. And this is, for example, what we do for 2021. It's a series of trainings with over 40 hours of trainings live. And if you don't catch it live, you can watch it from recordings. So that's the plan for this year. You can also, if you are working for corporation like IBM, Cisco, and so on, and you have access to social talent, you can actually consume my content about talent sourcing, and that's really the latest talent sourcing, advanced sourcing techniques on the social talent platform. So if you have access to this, you can find it there as well. So let's go to the trends. Of course, as I already mentioned, 2020 for recruitment business, really nasty year. Even if, for example, here at our organization, at our holding, Good Call Data and Recruitment Academy, we finally managed to finish the year in with profit, in black numbers. But of course, I would say since March, me and my business partners here, we were here at the office every day, working tough decisions, tough work, and so on. So of course, we will see what will be happening next. There are some, I would say, some snap COVID trends which you can probably see in your business as well. I would say, for example, for candidates, the job security is far more important than before. Imagine before COVID, and especially, for example, here when I'm speaking about the Czech Republic, where we have the lowest unemployment rate in Europe and second lowest unemployment rate overall globally. Yeah, so imagine that it was pretty normal that someone who would like to change the job, just quit the current job, and then find another job. It's not the case anymore. Maybe for some IT roles, but in general, it's not the case anymore because the job security is far more important, which for talent sourcing is, of course, kind of tough because it's more difficult to, I would say, persuade that candidate, for example, to go for this opportunity, which is at a different organization. There are definitely more active candidates on the market, especially in, let's say, bigger cities, in industries like, for example, marketing. It's pretty normal that suddenly you have over 300 or 400 applicants per, for example, marketing manager role. Yeah, so which is creating a space when we are speaking about talent sourcing. Maybe you are a talent sourcer, you are a recruiter doing this, which is creating space kind of to utilize and benefit from the inbound pipeline of candidates as well. And maybe if you are not using job advertisement, like like the general job advertisement, like on Indeed, or here, for example, on jobs.cz, or in Poland on pracuj.pl and so on, you might be maybe using your profiles to get those candidates. Maybe you have those candidates in your network on Facebook, on LinkedIn, maybe on Instagram as well. We can talk, maybe TikTok. I don't know. It's already there. Some people are trying to use it in some way, even for recruitment. So maybe suddenly there is space for that, because before that, especially for the markets where there is a really low unemployment rate, it was mostly just outbound, just going, doing searches, doing long lists, persuading people, putting them on shortlists, and so on. Candidates are more difficult to move. It's, of course, also with these restrictions happening there on the market. So, of course, you can do interviews like this, for example, in online, but not every time it's feasible. Still, some companies require face-to-face personal interview with the candidate before actually the candidate can be hired. Yeah, so it's not totally everywhere that everybody can be hired and on board remotely. The rapid growth of RPO, flexible recruitment, or as we call it, recruitment outsourcing. So we can see it dramatically. We were doing that before COVID, but now it really speeded up. and we are outsourcing recruiters, or if you want, we are renting recruiters to clients. And sometimes it's not for, like, for example, 1 year, 2 years, and so on. Sometimes it's for example, 2 months. Yeah, it can be period like that as well, and or it can be for 3 days in a week. It's possible as well. So that's why we call it flexible, because sometimes our recruiter is going for 3 days into one company and spend the rest of other 2 days of the week in totally different company. Yeah. Both companies are satisfied, then they don't need to hire a full-time recruiter. This 3-day per week recruiter can do all the work, hire all the people, and so on. Make the process more COVID-proof. Of course, that's connected mostly with these tools to these virtual interviews, screenings, and so on. And of course, recruitment personnel might be more under pressure as well, because of course, management pressuring HR people to save on costs and so on. So it's definitely, and of course some layoffs in this sector happening there as well. So of course there's some pressure. So the 3 major trends. One trend is definitely automate what can be automated. It's still there. We don't need to go somewhere like AI and so on. Just pure automation, which might be totally without any AI. We don't need to use any of these buzzwords. Automations, you can experience it from other industries. I would say that tools for automation of, I would say, routine tasks in sourcing, it's already there and it's developing quite fast. I don't know if you know Linkit Helper. That was, if you remember this plugin, I was using that, I would say, heavily before kind of COVID, or still at the beginning of the 2020. Maybe you wonder why this tool, why don't you use, for example, DuckSoup, or why don't you use MyRobotWorks and so on. There are plenty of them, Phantom Buster, for example, and so on. I usually recommend this tool even for beginners, because it's maybe it looks kind of like old school, but I think it's crystal clear what the tool is doing, and it's actually it's done by Russians. And I would say from the development or developer point of perspective, it's a really good tool. Yeah. So even if there were some, I would say, security problems, like in maybe 2019, there were some problems, but they solved it quickly. They took it from the market. They created the patch, updated it, and it was there again working. So it's really good, and they improve it because now there is Linkit Helper version 2, where there are some improvements. One improvement is that it's not plugin anymore. It's a standalone app. It's a desktop app on your, for example, in my case, MacBook or on Windows, which is creating, for example, as you can see here, this was actually my desk before this new release was actually launched. And as you can see, those 3 computers in the background, on each of them, each of them is a separate LinkedIn account using Linkit Helper to do various tasks. And the computer in the front, there is a Phantom Buster, because with Phantom Buster is running on the server, so I can shut down the computer and it's still, for example, sending invites, sending messages, and so on. But now I could take all of those accounts. It might be, imagine, because even from the management point of perspective, if you are managing your people, if you are managing sourcers or recruiters, it's really challenge, and you will probably never achieve it, that all of your people will be good as the best sourcer in your team. Yeah, it's kind of almost oxymoron. It's not feasible. It's not feasible to do that. So you might, for example, pick just one sourcer, and that sourcer might be specialist in automation. And of course, he can automate the processes of other people in the team, and they don't need to be involved like hands-on in that, because this person will actually do that for them. So that's the first thing. You can put there more accounts, and you can work with more accounts in one app on one computer. And the second thing is that, of course, there are some security things which, because it's not a plugin, are now solved, but you might not see them because it's something on the background. If you don't understand it, you don't need to understand it that much. The second thing is that you can create workflows. Yeah, that's the great thing, because now you can create, for example, one workflow. You will choose this target group. Let's say, for example, Hadoop developers in, for example, Berlin. And for this group of people, you want to send them invite, and then who will actually accept the invite? Those people will be also sent by message. And here, the perfect thing is that you can create more of these campaigns at the same time. But normally, when you did it with some other plugins, then you need to go to LinkedIn, you need to check inbox, and you see various replies, but to different campaigns. Here, as you can see on this quick GIF I created right here, here, for example, in reply, I can click on that, and I will see people who actually replied, but just within this campaign, not with other campaigns. Yeah, so it's really, you can actually, if you click here on CRM, actually it's called CRM, as you can see right here. You can see all the people you already put, or for example, invited and so on, used in LinkedIn Helper. You can actually see them like in a CRM version. Yeah, if you want to use automation with it needing to be recruitment, it might be, for example, sales, marketing, whatever, or maybe some like growth hacking methods you are doing there. You can use, for example, myrobot.works, yeah, which is, I would say, totally CRM oriented automation. Yeah, so you can create tags, you can put it in different categories and so on. You can work with that like with a separate CRM tool. We don't use it in this, or here in this case as well, because we have DataCrew. That's our CRM. That's our CRM for sales, and that's our CRM for candidates, so ATS as well. So we use LinkedIn and all other tools like peripheries, and everything is going into one heart of the business, which is the backbone, which is the DataCrew. Of course, there are some other automations you can do already on the market. Definitely, for example, screening and interviewing, interview scheduling, like for example with Calendly. Calendly, for most of you, will probably not be a new thing, but it's automation. It's automating. It's saving you time, because you are not doing this back and forth with, for example, when you are managing interviews, screenings, and so on. Yeah? Maybe the next stage will be the Google Duplex, where you will tell your Google Assistant, like, for example, arrange me interview with this and this guy, and you hang up, or that's the command, and the Google Assistant will actually do it for you automatically, on the background. So it's also like saving you time and so on. So that's future, I would say near future. All of these technologies like speech to text and so on. Speech to text, for example, by Google, it can make transcription of audio into text, and it's really improving for the local languages as well. For English, it's done with a good quality. For the local languages, sometimes it was a problem because there were quite a lot of mistakes, but now it's really improving, so you can use this as well. Or probably the developers of the tools you are using will use it somewhere, and you will just use it. Yeah. So, for example, sequence emailing with Mixmax, we use Mixmax here. Lemlist, it's another example of this, where email, it's a really old protocol, or email is not a protocol, it's a service running on some old protocols. And there are a lot of problems with that. Like by default, you cannot see if the person actually read the message. You can use some tools for that, but by default, it's not there. It can go to spam and so on. It's really kind of a crappy service. But with email sequencing, you can kind of put it on steroids, because you can send one message and automatically the follow-up to the candidate, for example, the second follow-up after 4 days on, or the third follow-up after another week, will be already sent automatically. Otherwise, if you are doing proper follow-ups, you are probably using, maybe you can use these semi-automatic reminders like followupden.com or followupcc, where you can send email to a candidate, and into, for example, a secret copy, you can put 4D or 4 days at followupden.com. And if this email actually hasn't been replied to, you will get a reminder, hey, this email wasn't replied. What do you want to do? Postpone the reminder, or, for example, create a reply, follow-up message for the candidate. Yeah. So with Mixmax Lemlist, you can do this on scale automatically. Of course, content posting with, for example, Buffer or Hootsuite, or we use, for example, Contentino, which is from the Slovakia, something like Buffer. Search automation, there are LinkedIn search alerts natively in LinkedIn, which is also like automation, saving you time on discovering new people you could actually put on long list. If you want to use this kind of feature for, I don't know, Facebook sourcing, Twitter sourcing, and so on, you can use Google Alerts, because most of these networks, you are not usually searching natively, but over some X-ray search queries, probably using Google. Lempot also is, which is plugin you can see right here. It's automation of engagement. If you are more interested in this topic, one like online course, it's called Recruitment Automation and Scraping. It's part of the package Digital HR Leaders, but you can, of course, if you want, you can attend it separately as well, right on this link. The second trend, which we see right here, is that sourcing funnels are actually more sophisticated. What I mean by that, I think that suddenly these terms like social selling, online marketing, talent sourcing, and so on are part of recruitment, are part of talent sourcing. Yeah. What I mean by that, imagine, for example, we do this good call Microsoft Academy, where Microsoft is actually hiring quite a lot of salespeople, sales consultants for their CRM and ERP systems, Dynamics, and so on and so on. Yeah? But it's a really tough job. Like, for example, in one country in Europe, for example, to hire 100 salespeople or consultants. Yeah, so you need to have some strategy how to turn this around, how to convert these people to be interested in this topic. That's why we created this, where in the Microsoft Academy, people are going there. There are some webinars, how to sell software, some agile methodologies, and so on. And from that, we are converting candidates for the organization, for Microsoft. Yeah, so, but the thing is, what's the problem now? The problem now is that you are not you are in the recruitment business, but not in the, let's say, traditional way, but you are suddenly selling courses. You are suddenly in educational business, and let's say in e-commerce business, selling courses on Good Call Microsoft Academy, with the goal having people there, having some pipeline of people going through the webinars and through the courses, to be able to hire some people from this group of people running through the academy. Yeah, so suddenly it's more what we can, for example, call social selling. Yeah? Tieto is a similar example. They are hiring technical people like programmers and so on. The problem is that it's a huge organization. You might know them because, for example, in Europe, they have branches in almost in every country. And for example, in the Czech Republic, they have a branch in a kind of like smaller city, but they have over 2,000 or 2,500 employees. So they are creating the market in that region. So they need to persuade people who maybe finished high school that they need to go, for example, through this Java bootcamp, because then they will kind of like gather the skill in Java programming, and that might create an opportunity for this company to hire those people. Yeah. But back to this, when they are promoting a Java bootcamp, they are in e-commerce business selling kind of like info products. Yeah. If the Java bootcamp is like online training, let's say, they are selling info products. Yeah. So I was actually a year ago, I was reading some books about these what is called sales funnels, and sometimes a website, it's a brick wall. Yeah. It's there are a lot of options. And when you are, for example, paying for pay-per-click campaigns and sending that to your website where there are a lot of options, it's a problem because sometimes people, they don't know what to do. They have many options. Sometimes you need to give them one option. That's why in sales funnel terminology, there is something like what is called, you can call it landing page. Sometimes it's called squeeze page. And there is just one option they can do. Usually it's connected with putting there some email in exchange for example, free webinar. Yeah? Email in exchange for example, book. Yeah? The problem is that when someone, for example, open the website of this or the Good Code Microsoft Academy, of course, they are highly skeptical. They don't know it. Maybe they know Microsoft, like the brand, but they don't know what's behind this program. And so the credibility of the program or of the company itself, it's low, and the skepticism of the person going to his website is high, and you need to change it to be able to actually persuade those people going through the program. Yeah? That's why you can do here, for example, different kind of content. And as I mentioned, for example, the squeeze page, you put there the potential candidate, put their email in exchange for some, it might be, for example, webinar. If someone is watching 1 hour webinar, you are already gaining or losing credibility. Yeah, but you have definitely opportunity to gain the credibility and lower the skepticism of that person. That's why sometimes there are these relationship value ladders where, for example, the base is podcast or some free offers, something for free. Yeah. The higher one, there might be some info products for $10, yeah, for $10, €10, something like that. Something with the level of credibility you gain through the podcast, you are able to get those people for a $10 product. And then you go higher. And of course, you are losing people in the process. And that's similar, for example, right here. Yeah, there is a free webinar. If you gain the credibility, if people like it, they go further, and you can distinguish those people who are like more into it or not. And based on that, hiring those candidates from that. Those are those 2 books I just mentioned that are only about these sales funnels, regardless of any technology. Sell Like Crazy by Sabri Ruby. He's actually the owner of agency, I think it's called King Kong in Australia, probably like the largest marketing agency in Australia. .com Secrets, it's by Russell Brunson. There are actually, this is just one book of, I think, 4, like a series of books. There is Expert Secrets and so on. But this is, he's behind the software called ClickFunnels, where you can actually technically, you can create these sales pages and so on. You don't need to use it. Both books are kind of independent on the technology, that they are explaining how it works in general, but definitely up-to-date reading. The .com Secrets, it's there for quite some time, but this is updated version, I think, from last year. Yeah, so even with the books, yeah, sometimes now you might be discovering these trends that, for example, this is not the case, but in COVID, I was writing articles. Suddenly, I find out that I'm probably writing a book, and it's 100-page book where we are distributing this for free. And these 2 books are actually for free as well. and then you can see that those are like 350 pages, like a proper book. When you go to Amazon.com, you would buy this book for, I don't know, $30 or something like that. But if you go to a landing page of these authors, you put there your email and so on, you can have this book just for shipping. Why? Because they need to put you into this value ladder on this stage 1 book, because with email and partially with some other data from you, you have more value for them than just paying for the book without actually having, without actually putting their email and so on. Because with email, they can work more with you over newsletters, over targeting on social media and so on, and get you to the, for example, stage number 2 on the value ladder, which might be some more valuable product. In the same way, in the similar fashion, we work with the candidates actually in this inbound funnel. So this is actually it's ebook for free. It's actually a paperback also for free. In this case, there is no value ladder behind it, because this was kind of like spontaneous work of mine, because I was bombarded by people like how to do this webinar, how to do this and that. So I was writing article about the technology behind virtual training. It's purely, there is nothing how to do virtual training from the perspective of the content. It's purely about technology, how to do webinars, different kind of webinars, because there are many technologies you can use that. What equipment could you use and so on. So yeah. So if you are interested, here I have a wrong headline, but if you are interested in social selling course, it's part of the Digital HR Leaders as well. And finally, talent mapping for better efficiency. You probably heard that talent sourcers should be kind of strategic backbone for the management of the company, because of course I'm doing some consultancy work for various organizations where, for example, we are deciding with those organizations in which country open a new branch, in which country open not just the whole branch, but for example, that vacancy. Yeah? We were, for example, it's maybe 2 years ago, we were working with one organization and creating a kind of a survey, or not survey, but analysis, I would say almost, about how many people speaking Egyptian Arabic language here in the Czech Republic are. Yeah? How many people are there? Can we actually open our role where this skill, this language is necessary there or not? Yeah? So that's, for example, one example. The similar might be for technical roles. Yeah, so you are working with some, for example, cloud technologies, like we have here the good called Microsoft Academy. So, for example, Azure, yeah, Microsoft Azure, and how many people, for example, with at least 2 years of experience are there in this country, knowing Azure from this perspective, in this country, in that country, and so on. So with this, you can definitely map, for example, top companies, where to take these candidates from. What are the top 20 companies employing people with Microsoft Azure in Germany? I want to see the list. Who actually, which companies are employing those people, because then I will be probably taking people from those companies where I'm building a new team, which might have some effect into, for example, also the like pricing, the salaries, I mean the salary levels and so on. Mapping of location with talent you need. So this is really about where is the talent, which market is saturated with this kind of people. Yeah, so it might happen that, for example, in the Netherlands, there is this group of people because there is some tradition in, for example, connected with some universities and so on. There might be various reasons for that, or usually companies are creating the market. So if there is, I mentioned, for example, Tieto Every company, and they use, for example, Java, it will, and they actually hire a lot of people and employ a lot of people. It will be creating the cloud of these people around that region. which company uses which technology. You can also find out with public information which company is using, for example, is based on Linux, which company is more based on Windows technologies, which company is based on SAP, and so on, which company uses more like React, JavaScript, and so on. Yeah? Education experience, like what's, for example, not only if there are those people on the market, but what's their experience level. Are those people having 3 to 5 years of experience in this, and so on. You can find out who's hiring, who's firing. And for example, I already mentioned languages. You can create language maps. In this case, I mean like world languages. So for example, what might be like insight into this is actually called Search Insights in LinkedIn Recruiter. So when you have LinkedIn Recruiter, the more expensive version, not Lite, but more expensive version, you can actually, for example, here I have Germany Azure. Yeah. And if you click on the breakdown in the pop-down menu on the top called Search Insights, you can see, for example, this current companies. So as you can see in Germany, that's probably not a surprise that Microsoft has the vast majority of people with Azure. Yeah, that's kind of clear. Then SAP, then Avanade, then Accenture, T-Systems, and so on. So suddenly, without, maybe I'm working in the US company, I'm totally in a different part of the world, and I can create insight on almost like any country, for example, through this, and have kind of image of like how it looks like there, how it looks like in the country, what are the top companies, for example, with this technology. Here in this case, it's locations. So as you can see, I can break down also not just Germany Azure, but in which parts of Germany there is the highest number of these Azure people. And as you can see, in Bavaria, for example, is the highest, and so on. So it's the breakdown, and I can go even further because Germany, it's let's say large country. So even from the perspective of LinkedIn, you have Germany, then you have regions, and each region has cities. So here in Baden-Württemberg, part of Germany, like a region, I have a breakdown where those people are. So you can see 1.2 thousand plus in Stuttgart, and so on. So all of these can happen just with this public data on LinkedIn. Here you have the total years of experience. So we have Azure people, but we can see that in Germany, total year of experience doesn't mean having experience with the technology, but overall experience. If you want to see, for example, you cannot find out like experience with that technology. Like it's not that simple like here, but you can, for example, find out years in current position or years in current company. So at least we can see that, for example, if the person is doing something with Azure in their latest job, as we can see, the vast majority is there with experience 1 to 2 years in current position. Yeah, but over 10 years with overall experience. You can find out which schools actually those people studied and which fields of study, which in this case, of course, Azure, it's a technical thing. So informatics, computer science, information technology, and so on. The good tool for mapping is also Sales Navigator, because with Sales Navigator, it's a little bit paradox because it's quite cheap account. It's for 60 euros per month, where the cheapest LinkedIn Recruiter Lite is for 90 euros, and this functionality is not there. And what I was showing, the insights, it was with the tool LinkedIn Recruiter RPS, which is even more expensive. But this is for 60 bucks. And you can see the big difference from the Recruiter accounts is that here you can look for accounts, which mean companies. So lead filters, looking for people, is people search, as we know it from LinkedIn Recruiter or basic LinkedIn. But with account filters, you can look for companies, which, by the way, you can do with your basic account as well. But of course, you don't have that many options. What you can choose right here. As you can see, I can, for example, choose Germany. I can choose companies in sorted in automotive industry, companies over 10,000 employees, but companies whose headcount is actually decreasing at least by 10%. Yeah, they are in the last 6 months, 12 months, and 2 years. So I can find out huge automotive companies in Germany losing people, maybe laying off people. Yeah, and I can have this list and I can find out. When you open, for example, one company in and having, for example, this Sales Navigator, and you open Insights, you can see that's quite interesting data as well. The median tenure, what's the average time spent at the company, and here we can see the headcount. Yeah, so the headcount in 2018 was growing, but in 2019 suddenly decreasing, and you can see that over the past 6 months, the decrease in number of employees 7%, in the past year 20%, but overall still, when we take it like 2 years, it's still up 6%. But the good thing is here that you can also, and you can search by that as well, which is perfect. It's sorted by different roles. So you can, with this, you can look for companies who are maybe, whose headcount is increasing, they are hiring people, but for example, sales people are decreasing. Yeah, so this can be done here because you have here the filter department headcount growth. Yeah, this is overall company headcount growth. Yeah, so I can find out even here. I can find out companies who are losing people, laying off people, but maybe in engineering they are hiring people. So, for example, in crisis also you are maybe cutting costs on marketing, maybe recruitment and so on, but on the other hand, you are hiring more engineers, maybe salespeople, and so on. So this is perfect. If you are interested more about market mapping, there is actually a course for that as well. Sorry for the headline. It's a different headline. Here we have you have the link if you want to see that. I'm going deeper into what you can do actually in terms of talent mapping and mapping the market in terms to HR, to sourcing, to people. So that's it. If you are interested in this, till the end of January, we have still the early bird account and early bird discounted package. So you can sign in with a discount. You can meet all of those people like Romana Martincová, for example, from Red Bull. For example, Jan Procházka, perfect topics about the legal side of, for example, working on home office and so on, with I would say the European coverage. Yeah, because Jan Procházka he also focuses on a German market, and he has the knowledge with the international law. It's not just the local law. Yeah, so you can meet Jan Milfait, the former chief of Microsoft, with some other I would say topics which we solve here at Good Call as well, like to be more the mental endurance, for example, of our sourcers, of our recruiters, who need to be, because we have lockdown right here still at this current moment, so they need to work from homes, they need to be more motivated and so on. So we have, for example, Jan Milfait and David Svoboda, the gold medalist from Olympics. They are doing a course together about this, how to be more endure in terms of these stress and these kind of things. Yeah. Of course, there are a lot of LinkedIn automation courses, recruitment automation courses, talent sourcing, and so on. So it's all there. That's all for me. If you have, of course, any questions, you can check it out and find my profiles on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. You can also find my LinkedIn profile over this QR code. And if you want to have more information, I'm publishing also some of these things in terms of like in the form of articles. You can go to linkedinlogist.com and you can find it there. All right, that's it from my side. Hopefully it was some interesting info and insights for you. And with the next live video, see you and good luck.